position, looking out for workers every single day, our good friend, Marty Walsh. And you've created, Mr. President, you've created the most worker-friendly, the most union-friendly administration in the history of the United States. So, on behalf of everybody in this room, on behalf of IBW Local 103, I want to say thank you. Brothers and sisters, friends, I'd like to introduce you to a champion of the labor movement, our great friend, the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Please, 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 please sit down. Hey guys, how you doing? Please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I came up here, years ago when I was a kid, I lived in Boston for a little over a year and a half. My dad worked at the shipyard during the war, a little actually after, but anyway, to make a long story short. You know, the reason Marty didn't come up is because I didn't let him. No. I said last night I was with him, I said, Marty, come on, why don't you fly up with me tomorrow? And he has something going on with the young kids. He has like 110 kids in Washington doing something today. He said, if I come up, he said, they'll never let me come back. I leave all these kids here. But at any rate, what I really want to find out is how y'all are going to talk to those folk down in Georgia. I mean, you're going to the phone and say, I keep kidding Marty, and Marty Walsh. Well, you know, you still park cars and car bonds up here. And, you know, down there they have bonds, but they don't have cars. Anyway, all kidding aside, what you're doing really makes a gigantic difference. And this is, as Elizabeth can tell you, this is not a joke. Thank you for waving. That I wouldn't be standing here without the IBW. That's not hyperbole. That's the God's truth. And you know, when one of the things that this guy and I, our whole career has been about, is making sure ordinary families have a fighting chance, just a shot. My dad used to say, everybody deserves just a little bit of breathing room. Everybody deserves to be treated with respect. And we all, three of us, when we served in the Senate together and now as president and two senators, we really do believe that, you know, the middle class, I'm tired of trickle-down economics, where the, no, for real. It works well for the wealthy, and every once in a while, a middle-class person gets lucky. But I was determined my whole career, and this time when I ran with your help, is to make sure that we built this economy from the middle up out and the bottom up and the middle out. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a shot, and the wealthy do very well. They don't have any problems. Don't have any problems. And the middle class is what built this country. But you built the middle class. Not a joke. Not a joke. Not labor. Without the union movement, there would be no middle class. That's what makes us the most unique country in the world. And so I just want to say thank you for all you've done and all you continue to do. And look, folks, this race in Georgia, this is the second time there's been a runoff in 2 years here, is really, really critical. As both your congressmen, both your senators can tell you, that, you know, when you have a vote of 50-50 in the Senate, the good news for that is Vice President, every time she votes, she wins. So, but, you know, that means you got 50 presidents. Anyone can decide to change the direction of the country. And we're a diverse party. And, but we still have all stuck together on the major, major issues. And one of the things that we need that 51st vote. I know Reverend Warnock well. First and foremost, he's a man of, and I know you know this too, but I wanted to emphasize it. I measure the people I work with based on their character, You know, when I got elected when I was 29 years old to the Senate, I come from a family that lived in a 3-bedroom home, nice home in a neighborhood with 4 kids and a grandpa lived with, a split-level home. So we weren't poor, but we weren't, everything, you know, the end of the month, if gas prices gone up 10 cents, we would have been in real trouble. Not a joke. The things we discussed at the kitchen table. My dad used to say, as I said, every family needs just a little bit of breathing room, be treated with dignity. And one of the things about Warnock is he has real character. He's a truly decent, honorable man. And when I got elected, people used to come to me because I got elected and beat someone in the middle of it when Nixon won my state by, at that time, it was by 64%. And I won by 3,100 votes. We used to be a red state when I started in the state of Delaware. And people would say, well, what's the secret? I want to run. What's the most important thing for me to know? What these two people know. What you're willing to lose over. What are you willing to lose over? If you don't know what you're willing to lose over, you don't have a principle to know why you're running, go do something else. It'll be a hell of a lot easier. You can do better, and you'll have a lot less grief. But here's what Warnock knows what's worth losing over. He's not going to compromise on something that's a matter of principle for him. And he has real character. And we all got to know him. They worked with him in the Senate, and I got to know him by campaigning the first time with him and going up and down Georgia with him. And so, folks, this is a guy who needs our help. And I think, you know, we have a chance to do something that I don't think my mentor when I got started in public life was Teddy Kennedy, not a joke. No, no, he was, though, for real. When I got elected, I was, as I said, I got elected on November the 3rd, and on November 18th, December 18th, I was down in Washington, and I was hiring staff. I just turned 30. I just wasn't eligible to be sworn in until I got to be 30. And I got a phone call saying my wife and daughter had just been killed, and my 2 sons were not likely to live. A tractor trailer broadside them and killed them. But here's my point. I had people, there were 5 senators led by Teddy Kennedy who came to my rescue. Not a joke. Who insisted I didn't want to be sworn in. I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't see how I could be a dad and a senator at the same time. And Teddy, and then another senator named Fritz Hollings from South Carolina, and another senator named Tom Eagleton from Missouri. 5 of them got together and said, just come and stay. Just stay for 8 months. Help us organize. Well, I was so stupid. I didn't realize we already had 58 United States senators. They didn't need me to organize anything. But they kept with me the whole time. That's the kind of guy Warnock is. He doesn't walk away from people. And folks, things are beginning to change. Georgia, when I got started, we had Democratic senators, but it was a very southern state. Of the things we care so much about, Massachusetts' agenda and Georgia's agenda was kind of different. But things are changing. They're changing in a big way. And you know, this is not a referendum on Warnock. This is a choice between 2 men. One man who does not deserve to be in the United States Senate. There's lots of times both nominees deserve, one just better than the other. One doesn't deserve to be in the United States Senate based on his veracity and what he said and what he hadn't said. The other man is a really, truly decent, honorable guy. So what you're doing makes a gigantic difference. For example, you know, looking down the list here, you know, we're in a situation where we got the legislation passed that wouldn't have been passed were it not for this guy over here named Markey, and that is the Inflation Reduction Act. But here's the point. Warnock helped you. He helped. Warnock got engaged. And what it was is the greatest investment in environment and jobs of anything ever written, $368 billion. You know, and it means a great deal, makes a great deal of difference. And by the way, your international president, the reason I remember I got in trouble for not introducing even though I'd been deeply involved in environmental issues for my whole career, I was getting beat up because I hadn't announced it yet, because wasn't going to do anything until I had labor with me. And labor sat down, and all of a sudden everybody figured out, you know, we're going to put in 550,000 charging stations. And guess who's putting them in? You. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. So, you know, did I say 500? It's not 500. 50 right now to start off with. We're just getting going. But my point is, you got a lot that we're going to get done for the American people. We've created more jobs because of your two senators and because of Warnock than any president has in his first almost 2 years. Over 10,500,000 jobs. It surprises me when I say the numbers. But all kidding aside, things are moving. Things are moving. And so we came along and we had the infrastructure bill. You know how much that legislation is? $200 billion. And it's remaking America. I'm trying, for example, so far, your state of Massachusetts got $3.4 billion toward that. Georgia, when you talk to the folks in Georgia, they got $4.8 billion so far. My point is, how can we compete with the rest of the world unless we have the most modern infrastructure in the world? Roads, bridges, internet, the whole thing. But it's all of you. It's labor that's getting this done. And so when you're talking to these folks down in Georgia, let them know. Let them know how important it is for their jobs. For example, your two senators came along with Warnock, and we decided we were going to pass the thing that had to do with building semiconductors. Well, guess what? We invented those suckers here in the United States of America. We modernized them. And then we paid no attention. We kept exporting jobs instead of product. And now, guess what? There's about $300 billion committed to be invested in new factories. And by the way, one of the things for example, out in what I call the Fields of Dreams, just outside of Columbus, Ohio, there's $20 billion being invested by Intel out there. Well, guess what? Of those jobs, there's 12,000 of them building the facilities, 5,000 permanent jobs. Average salary for those jobs, $128,000. And guess what? You don't need a college degree. You don't need a college degree. So my point is, I'm sorry to go on, but it really matters whether we continue to control the United States Senate in a way that we're not going to be able to have anybody hold us up and not do certain things. And Warnock is the real deal. He's the real deal. And like I said, it's not a referendum to like Warnock and what's happened and not happened. It's a choice between Warnock and Herschel Walker. Now that they found out, I'm not positive, I think I'm right about this, they found out that he uses to get a major tax cut, his primary home is in Texas. I don't know the last time anybody won a seat in the United States Senate from Massachusetts living in Maine. But maybe, I don't know. But look, I'm taking too much of your time. But it really matters. These calls really matter. And today I found out from my staff that this morning there's been a higher turnout in terms of turnout of any time at this stage of the game in early voting. And the early voting looks good for us. But last point I'll make is, you know, one of the things that a lot of people thought that maybe my talking about democracy being at risk, and I made that speech down in Independence Hall. Then I made one not too long before this last election. Well, guess what? There were over 330 Republicans running from office who denied the election was legitimate, denied that I got elected president, wanted to make sure the states and local officials could determine who the electors were that go to determine who votes for the President of the United States, the ultimate decision. And we talked a lot about it, all three of us. And what happened was people began to realize 70% of the American people were worried about, is democracy still functioning? Is it still working? Is it going to be square? And so we started electing, spending money, electing state auditors, state secretaries of state, the local people who determine whether or not the votes count. And that's at stake in Georgia too. And so we need to make sure we have Warnock elected. We need to make sure, and he, by the way, he's pro-union. I can't think of anything he hadn't voted for with us. There may be something. I know it's a problem because they're running against him saying he votes 98% of the time with Joe Biden. I wouldn't tell him that on the phone, but so anyway, thank you for what you're doing. Keep it up. Just keep it going. We have to win this election. It will give us 51 votes. And that changes the dynamic of anybody being able to say they want to change what we're going to do. It also is going to bring along some Republicans. And the reason it is, Republicans are having what we Catholics call an epiphany. Some of them are, because they're realizing that, we've all three had friends in the Senate who are Republicans who privately tell us they'd like to be able to vote with us. But they're afraid to do it because they're afraid to get, in fact, primaried and they'll lose the race. Well, it's not particularly courageous, but it's a reality. And we have 51 votes. We don't need anybody, and it's going to pass anyway. It's a lot easier to say, well, I voted for it anyway. It was going to pass, than it is when you're the deciding vote. So there's a lot going on, a lot you can do to help make sure we continue this path. And like I said, we've created real jobs, good-paying jobs, jobs that people can, live a life on. And as my dad would say, at the end of the month, have just a little bit of money left over after you pay all your bills. One of the things we've done with the leadership of your senators, we're in a situation now where beginning January 1st, anybody who needs insulin for diabetes? Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 for shot insulin, it's going to be $35 max you can pay. And by the way, they're still going to make a lot of money. It costs them $10 to make it, another probably $4 to package it, and they've been charging $400 to $800 for it. So we're changing a lot of people's lives. So much we're doing. And again, it's not anything particularly noble. It's just simply the right thing to do. The right thing to do. And I said the reason why people have a middle-class life is because of unions. And last thing I'll say, I get criticized. They say, well, Biden's pro-union, and he talks about it so much. I talk to corporate America about pro-union. I talk to the Business Roundtable about why. And here's the deal. I pointed out that it may cost more to have an IBW union worker put in an electrical facility, but it's going to cost you less in the long term because they're the best in the world. No. Not a joke. Not a joke. It will last longer. I really mean it. Not a joke. The best in the world. In the long run, it's cheaper than having somebody who does it not such a great job. I'm looking at my guys over there. Anyway, thank you. Keep it up. Call. It ain't over till it's over, so let's wait till the last vote's in. Thank you.
Jack. Jack.